Hello again, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to another edition of Listen Up a Minute. I am your host, John Dowl, and again, Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a safe and happy holidays. I hope you managed to stay dry in all of this rain that we had in the Central Virginia area. As always, I want to thank Derek Wright of Full Motion Video Productions, because without him, we will be talking to ourselves, or I'd be talking to myself. And want to thank Chico Brown, or Larry Brown Jr., and the folk at LJ Brown Enterprises for making all of this possible. I have with me, again, Miss Emily DeCarlo. How are you?
I am blessed.
Good, good. And I say again because people don't know that I interviewed you when we were doing radio in the early 2000s.
Yes.
At historic WHAP, right around the corner in Hopewell. Yeah. How things going since then?
Oh, wonderful. I love it. I've had several books published since then, and one book used for Virginia State English 211
Okay.
as a supplemental textbook. And I've had a line of posters that I'm trying to publicize and get out there to light up the world, John.
Now, a lot of people don't know you are a published poet.
Yes.
Is that correct? I guess that's how you started. So tell us a little bit about that. How'd you get into poetry and writing?
Since I could write, since I could hold a pencil. I loved it. It was something about it. I had a lot of different illnesses, and I'm doing great,
Good.
doing great. But I actually grew up with polio, and my pleasure, my entertainment was to write. As things came to me, I would write about them. I would write about the trees, anything that was in my reality. I would write about other people. I would write about the dreams I had. I would just write. And poetry was my format. Because you can write a whole story in a poem. 10 lines, and you can tell a complete story. I love that. I also wrote because my dad would encourage me. Now, he was one of my biggest motivators. He died when I was 11. But the dream that he had for me of writing and going on to college did not die. It still lived. So to answer your question about poetry, I was writing since I was about 6. I also took all the little poems that I wrote through high school and up until college with me. My grandmother had put them in a little box. It was a brown box with a pink ribbon. And those two colors happen to be my favorite colors today. So I took those with me, and I was very shy. But people always wanted to talk to me, and I had a lot of great friends. So they knew, as they began to know me, they knew I wrote poetry. So they convinced me to write my first book. Well, it was already written, really. It was a collection of all the poems that I had written when I was younger, growing on up through high school. And then when I first got to college, I was still writing. And so that became my first book, So You Can Know Me. And Hampton University was university now. Yeah. It was HI, or Hampton Institute, when I was there. HI until the day we died, we would say. But when I was there, they were so supportive of me, the public relations department. They would send my name out to schools, and I would get an honorarium to come and do poetry and talk about the literary devices with the students, early age, college age. And then I entered the Miss Black Virginia contest because a friend of mine, who I thought was the prettiest girl in the world and who I thought was playing a trick on me, told me to enter the contest. So here she is, all bright-eyed, and sparkling and beautiful, telling me to enter the contest.
She didn't enter?
No, she said I would win. So she wouldn't get in. So I said, what would I do for my talent. I don't have talent, she said. And she said, but you write poetry. So I wrote a poem. The poem was called I Am the Black Child.
Okay.
And I won.
Oh, nice.
I won.
Nice.
I was shocked, but that spurred me on to continue, write further books, and just enjoy the art of poetry.
So you had support from day one all the way through. Now, you grew up in Hopewell here, but you also spent some time in D.C.
Yes.
What was that like? Any similarities, differences? Just grow up, spending time in Hopewell in D.C. What was?
Very different.
Really?
Very different. I had the kindest friends, though. I don't know. Wherever I go, I managed to be in with people with hearts. And even though they were faster, they were into partying, and I wasn't. They would actually like say, well, you can't go here. You can't go with us. But they still remained friends with me. And they were great people, but the lifestyle was faster.
Okay.
So I'm glad they didn't take me too fast, though. But they were wonderful people.
Did you do any partying at Hampton? You
know what? I did try. But that was not for me.
Just not you. Just wasn't for you.
It wasn't me. I don't drink. So I was like, an old shoe out there. Everybody else is all brand new and know how to dance, and I'm there looking. And my friends would always want me to go, though. But I went this one time, and I decided, no, that's not me. It was too fast. It was dark in there.
Well, parties are dark. The room dark. If it's summer, it's hot. You open them.
Yes, that was not for me. But I still maintained those friends.
Where'd you get your degree in?
The first one was, actually, I started out to be a doctor. That was my dream.
Okay.
And my first major, my BA, is in social welfare. But I started out in nursing.
Okay.
And my idea was to get a BSN, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and then go on to medical school.
Okay.
I was going to take the MedCat, the Medical College Aptitude Test, and then I was going to apply to some of these, fancy medical schools. But my internship in nursing taught me what I really didn't want to do. And that was to see people bleeding. I did an internship at McGuire.
Okay.
You know about McGuire?
I do.
They do a lot to men. And I couldn't believe it, because here I was, a little nursing student. It was my junior year. I was 19 years old. And I don't think I had the maturity to see everything that I saw. I witnessed men's scalps, their heads being cut open to take out tumors. I saw one that went really wrong, and it was very devastating to me. The doctors were yelling, and I hadn't seen that on the doctor shows on TV. They were so, collected and calm. But when something went wrong this time, there, in reality, at McGuire, the doctor cursed the nurse out. The nurse dropped an instrument. It really was traumatic to me. I decided, at 19 years old,
this is not for me.
We're not going to do that. So I did a brave thing. I told my grandmother, because my father had died, that was changing my major. But she was so kind and accepting. She said, well, if that's what I wanted to do, I could do it. And I did. I love people and working with people. So I switched to social work. It was really social welfare systems. And later I did work in Philadelphia as a clinical social worker.
Oh, nice.
And after the BA, I decided I wanted an MED. I wanted a counseling degree, so I got my first master's in guidance and counseling.
Okay.
And that was rewarding. I loved it. I later worked as a counselor in different venues. I worked at high school. I worked as a vocational counselor. I worked for a private college. It was not college, but high school.
Okay.
St. Vincent de Paul.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I worked for Upward Bound as a counselor. Mm-hmm. And then while I was at Upward Bound, that's when my book of poetry was used there too.
Okay.
As a supplemental textbook. And also there, you know, as the Upward Bound counselor, I could also get another degree.
Oh.
So I got
Free?
Another degree. I had to pay half.
Oh, well, that's better than full
Yes.
price.
And I had waivers. I loved it.
Nice.
So
nice.
I was able to work on a degree in special ed.
Okay.
And I did later become a special ed teacher for
Okay.
16 years at James River High School
Okay.
and 3 in Petersburg.
Okay.
I actually retired early in 2011, and then somebody talked me into coming to Petersburg to work. So I did 3. I was only going to do 3 or 4 more.
Okay.
So I did do 3, and left. I retired from all of
Okay.
that for good. And then I went on to pursue my doctorate, my PhD in the field of ministry. And I
Okay.
am a minister for
nice.
20 years
nice.
at Mount Carmel Baptist
Okay.
Church in Hopewell,
Okay.
Virginia.
Okay.
So I just love everything I do, and I'm thankful for God because I could work in my field.
Okay.
And some people don't get to do that.
This is true.
But
This is true.
I worked in every field that I majored in. And don't you think that's amazing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. Now, going back to Hampton, you said you were able to get an honorarium for speaking. Folks, that's a fancy way of saying that she got paid for reading her poetry. And when you are a college student and you get paid, period, that's a big deal. But when you get paid to do something that you like, when you first come in, that's pretty awesome. Because, I mean, how many college students think of, okay, well, I can go and do something and get, you know, I can do work study and a check just goes straight to university.
Right.
Or I can do this unpaid internship, but to actually get paid for something.
Yes.
And as a, you don't need to get into how much it was, but as a college student, any little bit helps.
And I got $50.
Yeah, right. And back then, that went a
$50
long way. Yeah.
was like $2,000.
Yeah, right. I mean, and you weren't. I'm sure you weren't expecting that when you first went.
No, I wasn't. I was just expecting to go and share, and I love seeing the faces of students who wanted to be writers,
Okay.
who were interested in the literary field, like I was.
Do you think a good writer is it a natural talent, or can someone be made, or can you develop a good writer?
One of my professors, Dr. Ayisi, that I loved, he was, his wife was from Great Britain, and I want to say that he was too, but I think he was really from somewhere in Africa.
Okay.
But he would say, he would read my poetry, and he would say, the spark is there. You know? And I think the spark has to be there.
Okay.
Because
okay.
when I was 6 years old, I did not know one literary device. But when I look back at my poetry, I see them. I used alliteration. I used personification. I used assonance and consonants. But I didn't know at 6 years old what those terms were. And then later, as I began on my own to study them, I could identify them in my writing.
Oh.
You know, they were foreign to me, a foreign language, you know, hyperbole and different devices like that. I loved it though, learning.
Okay.
But like my professor said, and this was not an English professor, but he said the spark the spark is there. And so I went with that spark, you know, and even studied more.
Okay.
So I think in answer to your question, do you need training? Can you be developed? Yes. But I think the spark has to be there.
Okay. Would you recite one of your poems for us?
Yes, I will. I want to do something because Martin Luther King's birthday, as you know, is the 15th. Yeah. And some of my poems, they are not warm and fuzzy. Okay. Some of them challenge people. I like to do that. It's about his dream, but it's also to us to remember that dream.
Okay.
To remember, to stay focused on what that dream is. Because even in this 21st century modern day society, sometimes I think we forget. You don't see the fervor anymore. You don't see that fervor, that vim, that real excitement for that dream, the dream of unity and equality for all. So I hope to break through the apathy, the concrete of it, because I see a lot of it now. But I hope to break through it with this particular poem too, as well as some of my others. It's called Killers of the Dream. At the risk of seeming cynical, I've got something to say that's empirical. Something that I've witnessed that threatens to overshadow a miracle. The phenomenon of a hero who walked among us, lived and died to set us free. A bulwark of a man who dared to challenge strange fruit hanging from a tree. It's all just so incredulous to me. How this man, like Moses, led his people to be free. And yet, these descendants, partakers of the vision and the dream, are so blind they cannot see that the crystal blue waters of freedom are no longer flowing pure and clean, but are contaminated by minds too delirious to see that they are killers of the dream, a threat to democracy. Because if one mind is imprisoned, hence the domino effect, nobody can be free. For we are all connected in this nightmare. And if somebody doesn't wake up, we'll all be drowned by the turbulence in a dark and polluted sea, where brothers and sisters still call each other the word that sounds like bitter. Instead of forgiveness, rage is flowing like blood-infested rivers. Instead of reason, drug-riddled thinking is pulling triggers. Mothers stooping over lifeless bodies crying, mercy me. Have we turned from saints to sinners with no in-between? Assassins of the universal brotherhood with straight-edged tongues accompanied by bullets and guns. Why have we become so hardened and mean? Has the pride that our ancestors taught us all washed downstream with motives unclear and questionable, clothes and sagging pants and attitudes that are indecent and obscene? Have we forgotten the playbook, filled with drama with no feelings for each other, like savages and heathens, cold-hearted and disenchanted? Instead of keepers of the light, some have been sucked down into the hazy cesspool of the night, denying the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, sentenced to self-inflicted insanity, found guilty of being killers of the dream.
Yeah, I can see how that would make a few people feel uncomfortable. It's funny you mentioned strange fruit, because when you said controversial, that's what came to my mind, and I'm like, oh, what if this going to be kind of strange fruit kind of thing, you know? Because,
and that's exactly.
You know, the writer, the author of Strange Fruit, when she would recite that, people would say, "Can you not?" Because listen, this is too. Pick an adjective.
Yes.
Just, can you not recite that? And she's like, no, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. And she was something special. She was.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am with Miss Emily DeCarlo. As you can see, a woman of many talents, a writer extraordinary, very well accomplished, multiple degrees. Tell us a little bit about the writing process for someone, I guess, who is writing, or someone who maybe has writer's block, or someone who wants to write.
Well, in the process of writing, you discover things about you. Mm-hmm. Because it is a very subjective process, yes, as well as objective, mm-hmm, too. You have to look outside of yourself to observe things, but it starts with a looking within, mm-hmm, and a connection to what you are observing outside of you. Like when I wrote about Martin Luther King, I connected with his mission also. Okay. I have a mission in here too, to, mm-hmm, change the world. I want to ignite the world with a passion for unity and diversity at the, mm-hmm, same time. Martin Luther King did too. He wanted us to be equal, but he also wanted us to have cultural respect.
Okay.
Because my culture is different maybe from somebody else's, and I have to respect that. But at the same time, like Martin Luther King, I want unity. So you see this in this poem, and it's almost like a challenge. I like to use that, but that is subjective. Mm-hmm. A challenge from within me, connecting to the global population of the world, saying, I want us to be free, so come on, let us all be free, mm-hmm, together. Mm-hmm. Let us all unite and show them a picture of what is happening. It's not pretty, but it's what I see. So that's why I say it's both, it's subjective, it's what I think in here, but it's also what I observe out there. So you hear it, mm-hmm, in the poem. So that process of writing includes both.
Okay.
Looking in and looking without. And then it also has an element of surprise too. As you develop as a writer, you will surprise yourself. Feelings that you have will come out. And you will also discover surprises from other people. Be surprised by what you observe about them too, and you put it in your writing. So it's very multifaceted, this world of writing. It involves so many different things. It also involves tenacity, mm-hmm, you know, the will, the stick-to-itiveness, you know, been writing a long time. Mm-hmm. And one day, I want to actually get up there to DC and do the poem for, okay, an inauguration. I have done many inaugurations locally in, mm-hmm, Richmond. I did the poem for Mayor Dance, okay, when she was inaugurated. I was at the unveiling for Martin, mm-hmm, not Martin Luther King, but Reverend Curtis Harris's, oh, nice, unveiling, nice, here, yes, his statue. Nice. And I just loved it. Mm-hmm. I loved doing that. I wrote the poem. And I mean, people said it was so touching and it was so, mm-hmm, him. So like I said about tenacity, it takes that. You stick to, mm-hmm, it and you keep going. But you also have that goal in mind. Like my goal is to be like Amanda Gorman. Like Emily DeCarlo, of course, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, you know, my own uniqueness, bringing it to the table, but also I have a goal like Amanda of going up there.
You mentioned Amanda Gorman, so I take it she is one person that inspired you. Who else inspired you?
Amanda didn't really inspire, okay, me because I started, I guess, so long ago, okay, before she was born.
Okay.
But what really inspired me when I was young was so many things, and I was inspired by the encouragement from my father. Okay. You know, I was raised by my grandmother, mm-hmm, and grandfather and father. at an early age, my father took us and we went to live with my grandmother. And I was just so inspired by them to do whatever it was that I wanted. So I happened to write. So they encouraged me. Okay. And a lot of different things other people did inspire me. And other writers did inspire me too. That's why I had the book, so it was called Let It Shine, a tribute to. And that was a tribute to writers that I knew, like Paul Laurence Dunbar, Conte Collins, Claude McKay, and different people like that. Now, I didn't know about these people in high school.
Right.
I learned when I got to college. So I put these people, and some I knew, like Karen Winston, who's right in Petersburg. Yeah. She's in the book, but she is a fantastic writer. I put her in the book because she's noteworthy. There were so many that other people out there may not ever have heard of. Yeah. So I wanted to put little poetic synopses out there. Okay. And I actually met Nikki Giovanni when I was a student at Hampton.
She's funny.
I love
What
Nikki.
A lot of people don't know about her is she is hilarious. She is.
Yes.
She will tell a story, and everybody likes her poem, Ego Tripping, which is nice. But Nikki is hilarious. She will have you fall. She is hilarious. She can tell a story. She's funny. She is. She will have you laughing.
I loved her. She talked about Tupac. She has him tattooed on her arm. And I think it's so heartwarming because here she is, this giant to me.
Yeah.
I mean, not in stature. Yeah. Because she's a little bit.
5 feet, maybe 5 feet.
Maybe 5 feet. But when I first met her, I thought she was a giant. She had this big fro.
Yeah.
And she was skinny.
And still is.
You know, it's amazing. But she was one of the people who inspired me and who is in my book.
And taught at Virginia Tech forever, right?
She's still there,
isn't
she?
I think I saw her a couple of years ago at New Millennium Studios, and she just came there talking and telling stories and answering questions. I mean, she had us cracking up. And she talked about her home state of Tennessee. And she said, you know, Tennessee, it's really 2 different states. It's like, I forget which which city divides, like this part of Tennessee is different from that part of Tennessee. And she told stories about her family and her father. I mean, she is a funny, she could have been a comedian. But because she just has, you think that when you meet and hear somebody like that, it's going to be so deep and so intellectually heavy. And it's not.
Yes.
She is a fun-loving, down-to-earth person.
She really is.
By the time you get finished with her, she will have you laughing.
She's a humble person.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that she is really a fun person to listen to.
Yes, and she did the review, or one of them, of my book.
Oh, nice.
Let It Shine. I mean, and that's how humble she is to reach out to another writer and actually do a review. Yes. Because I don't consider myself to be in the class with Nikki Giovanni, you know. I met her when she was already out there and famous. But I hope that I will inspire other writers too, like I've been inspired to write, to dare, to put your soul out there.
And hopefully you'll inspire some parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and elders to encourage their children and nieces and grands and whomever to listen, follow your dreams.
Yes.
Be passionate. If this is what you like, this is what you want to do, we're going to help you.
Yes.
We're going to support you all the way through. Hopefully you inspire some parents to do that as well.
I hope so. And you know, Paul Laurence Dunbar actually was a paid writer. Oh. He made money. He had sponsors. Oh. So if he could make money way back then, definitely the young people today with all the technology, they can get a YouTube channel. I'm working on mine. I have a couple. I have Thrifty Rich, and I just wanted to throw that in there because I love to do different things, you know. And people have this talk now, you know, John, like, I'm getting so old and all of this. And I'm like, I'm just starting.
Yeah.
I just stop. Don't talk age with me, because age, I mean, is to me, is so irrelevant. Like, it doesn't matter as long as you have health. So I try to go to, not try, but I go to thrift stores and I pick out different outfits and put them together, and I do videos of them to inspire people who may be over 30 or even 50 or whatever, or they think they're up in age.
Over 30, that.
Yeah, because most people, when they get 30, they're like,
yeah.
what kind of mindset is that?
Because that's what Madison Avenue and Hollywood and Broad, they all say, well, once you get a certain age, well, that's it. Okay.
I plan to be on the cover of Vogue.
There you go.
There was a 92 old lady that's 92, on the cover. Beautiful. 92.
92.
And I'm like, wow, I'm so inspired by that she is following her dream. Can you imagine that?
Now, wellness is important to you, but before I get to that in my notes, see, when you get past 30, these things look good on you, people.
Yeah, I love.
You were introduced into the Sigma Tau Delta International Literary Society for Distinguished Writers. Now, try saying that 5 times real fast. What was that about?
Well, after they had selected my book as a textbook up there at Virginia State, I was inducted into that. They invited me, and I think it was Virginia State's chapter. And I didn't really know about it, but it's an international society for people who have made what they call distinguished contributions to literature.
Okay.
And I was inducted into it, and it was exciting to me because it did show to me, wow, as a young person, and because that was a few years ago, that somebody's paying attention. They do, And as a writer, you want people, you're writing for you, but you're also writing for other reasons. You want to inspire, you want to challenge, you want to excite, you want to ignite, So if somebody notices it, you're like, I have purpose as a writer. So that was a highlight for me.
And as we close, we want you to tell us how people can get your works, but talk to us about wellness and why that's important to you.
Very important, because I've had a lot of different things that have challenged my health. And when I was young, I had polio. And I actually got over it, except for a few things. Sometimes my bones are real cold. But I thank God because of natural medicine that my grandmother would practice, and she gave me a lot of herbs and her own little concoctions, prepared me for my operations. She built my bones up, and she would call it milkshakes. Today we would call it a smoothie. But she had her own smoothies, grandma's remedies, and she would put banana and eggs, raw eggs, and she would put some of everything, vanilla extract.
And this is way back when, and some people think this is something new, and she was doing it way back when. Way
back when. And she would set me in the sun for vitamin D.
Okay. Oh, free, it's natural, yeah.
She would sit me out there at high noon, and I'm out there. And at that point, I had a full body cast on. I looked like a little turtle, because my head was sticking up, and the neck was enclosed, and the whole body was enclosed down to here, except for the legs and the arms.
So you weren't getting a lot of sunlight, so she knew what she was doing. There was a method to that madness, if you will.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
And so I learned about natural medicine a lot from her, informally. She was Native American and white. Her mother was full-blooded Native American Indian, and her dad was a white man. His nationality was actually Irish.
Okay.
And he came over here from Ireland and met her mother, They, I don't know if at that time they got married. I don't know. I've been down here doing research on it.
Okay.
But I know that they lived on a farm.
Okay.
And she loved to garden. So she would plant catnip, tea, mint tea, all kinds of, those tea leaves, and make medicine and give it to me. And I was glad for it, And I think to this day, because I've had other things that I really wasn't supposed to be living this long at all, because I've had those things, her medicine, I believe, helped to preserve my life. Because there were things, and I'm not going to put it out there, but congenital that actually I was not supposed to live beyond infancy. But I'm here. I'm here. And I still practice those things. Formerly, I went to Stratford Career Institute and got my formal training in it too, and I'm going to do more because it fascinates me. I take beetroot juice, put it in water or some other juice. I take that to lower blood pressure. I do a number of things, and I consult with people, and I love it because I can do it through Zoom. I can do it on the telephone. I love it. I can do a teleconference.
Oh, good,
and I love helping people. It's a good feeling that just because the doctor gives you a diagnosis, it doesn't mean you have to own that.
True.
Don't own anything if it's not good. Do not own it. And here I am sitting here. I did have some type of, I don't know what it was. Somebody told me they thought it was from the magnetic energy of the flare up from the sun. I do not know. But 9 days I was in the hospital at the end of November. Could not walk. Blood pressure went up to 200 and something. But look at me, I'm doing great.
Good.
I had a physical therapist. I had an occupational therapist. But you know what? I believe also in prayer and praying for myself, and then that mindset of receiving your healing, that mindset that I'm healed. And so I'm healed. I'm here looking at you.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling us about that years ago when we did our first radio interview together. You were just getting started with the wellness program.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's still vibrant, and I'm going to take it around the world because COVID taught us that we have a tool called Zoom.
As we close out, tell us if someone wants to get in touch with you and or purchase or read some of your works.
Yes. My book, Let It Shine, is actually in the library downtown, Appomattox Library, 209 East Carson Street.
Which is a lovely facility, by the way, people. Very nice.
Yes, and also you can contact me for more information about all of my books and my endeavors at Emily DeCarlo Speaks at Blessed, I got two. Emily DeCarlo Speaks at gmail.com and Emily DeCarlo Blessed at gmail.com.
And folks, these will be put up on the site when this show is edited down to make it look good. So you can read all about it and get in contact with her and pass the word along, folks. This has been a very good show, very enlightening. I'm always excited to hear about people who are doing well and overcoming obstacles when it comes to our health, because we only have one body, and we take our health for granted until something goes wrong.
Yes.
And we shouldn't. And I'm not a believer in 29 bottles of medication, although there's a place for Western medication, no doubt about it, but I'm just not a believer in taking umpteen pills.
That's why you look so good.
That I don't have to, but I just prefer to go another route.
Yes, and you look well is what I mean when I say look good. Your eyes are sparkling, and that's a good thing. To have that health radiating from you. Who wants to look downcast and you're not feeling well and you're not talking well? when you don't feel well. It's going to come out,
Yeah.
you know. So I believe with a change in diet and lifestyle, we can have the health we were meant to
I
have.
learned a long time ago, drink water, plenty of water, and go to bed, get some rest.
Yes.
There's no need to sit up to 3 o'clock and then get up at 5 o'clock. You probably can do it when you're younger, but
Yes.
I never could. I tried it once or twice and it just didn't work for me, but I saw an old coach in American Family Fitness. This was probably 10, 20 years ago. He was just turned 50. I said, Coach Palmer, if I can look that good when I get 50, man. And he's a former football player, so you know, he said, John, you keep coming in here, eat right,
Yes.
get plenty of rest, and pray.
Yes.
And you'll be all right. I said, Coach, I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind. Folk, this is going to do it for this edition of Listen Up a Minute. Thank you so very much. And to the people who helped make this possible behind the scenes, always a big shout out to you. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will talk to you again. So long.